Okay guys, welcome to lesson 1. So let's get into it. We're going to be talking about the kitchen cabinet. So what do I mean by kitchen cabinet? This is a small group of very trusted advisors that you can go to for advice, for strategy development, to bounce ideas off of, really anything that you would want to talk to a trusted advisor about. So if you were working at like in a startup, this would be your board of advisors. If you were like running a big giant project in a corporation, this would be called your steering committee. So there's a few other ways to think about it. At a nonprofit, this is typically the board, like board of directors. So these aren't people that are like working directly on the campaign typically, but they're more like in an advisory setting, in an advisory role. But there's some crossover there between folks that are working on the campaign full-time and being advisors. So we'll get into all those details here. You can see in the diagram here, I have a little star next to the kitchen cabinet. So I talked about this briefly before, but essentially you can see that they're at the same level as you, the candidate, at the top of the campaign structure, but with a horizontal line across. So that means you, the candidate, are really consulting them in an advisory way. And then the decisions that are made between the two of you guys, or between you and the group of them, those trickle down to the campaign manager and the rest of the staff and folks working on the campaign. So that's a brief overview. Now let's talk about the different functions of the kitchen cabinet. So what are they useful for you? One thing is for earnest feedback. So when you're thinking about people that you want on the campaign or on the kitchen cabinet, these need to be people that aren't afraid to speak up and speak their mind. Having a bunch of like yes men and women around is not going to benefit you nearly as much as someone that isn't afraid to take a bold stance and voice that opinion and communicate that stance clearly. You don't want people that are super stubborn and are going to be a pain to work with, but strong opinions, communicated effectively, that's what you're going for there. So second, they can help you with the campaign message development. So all this work that we did in chapter 2, the campaign message. So when you start boiling down points on particular issues or the overall like slogan of your campaign or your 2-minute, 1-minute, 30-second, 1-sentence pitches, all of that stuff that you put together, this would be a great group of people to bounce all of that off of. At a certain point, you can only toy around with those campaign messages so much before you really need to just bounce it off of a group of people. And these are the folks that are going to do that with you. You can also sit down and do some like white space thinking, we call it, where you just kind of start from scratch. Don't even bring campaign messaging to them. Just tell them that here's some general feeling that I'm going for, or here's a particular issue that I want to start talking about, and have them help you just throw out ideas and distill it into solid thoughts. That sort of work is really useful with these folks as well. So they can also help with fundraising. These should be, if you're able to, these should be people that are well connected to money. I know that it would be really great if all of us had 10 friends that were brilliant, all had a special expertise that they would do on the campaign for us, and each one of them had 100 friends that were billionaires that wanted to write checks to candidates. But I know that that's not possible for most of us. But if you're choosing between two people and one of them is connected to a lot of wealthy people, and all else being equal, they both bring the same sort of qualifications or similar, you're going to want to choose that person that's connected to the wealthy people. There should be a fundraising expectation on these people as well. I know that might be a little bit uncomfortable to communicate, but it's very common in nonprofits and political nonprofits that if you are asked to join a board of directors, and that's how you can see this, is like a board of directors. They'll oftentimes just explicitly define they call it a give-get. So I was part of this organization, and the board of directors had a $10,000 give-get. So that meant if you were on the board, then you're required to either give $10,000 of your own money to the organization, or go out and fundraise $10,000. So this might be a language that you want to adopt. It's like a little bit quirky, and I think the quirkiness of it distracts from it being a sometimes awkward conversation or an awkward thing to talk about. But I would just communicate up front with these folks that there is a fundraising expectation. Maybe it's a smaller amount, just depending on the size of your race. But for your average kind of city council race, I think expecting these people to raise between like $1,000 and $2,000 for you would be acceptable. So another function of the kitchen cabinet and how they can be really useful to you is quick input on quick decisions. So oftentimes campaigns need to react quickly to events that are taking place on the campaign trail. Could be responding to like a hit piece from an opponent, or some news is breaking, and you need to have a really quick response to it. But it's like a big issue that is complicated. Then you're going to need to bounce ideas off of this group of people quickly. So emphasis here is like quick input, quick decisions. On the Proposition 8 campaign in 2008 in California, where one of the big campaigns that I was first exposed to, the no on Prop 8 side was the pro marriage equality side, the no on 8. The no on 8 campaign, after everything was said and done and we had lost, and it was terrible. But one of the big criticisms that came out after that was that the campaign wasn't nimble enough, wasn't agile enough to be able to make decisions. So they had this big, it's a kitchen cabinet of sorts, but it was an issue campaign, like a statewide ballot initiative campaign, which is different than running a candidate campaign. But a lot is similar. So they had this big, giant kitchen campaign for the No on 8 campaign. Or kitchen cabinet, for the No on 8 campaign. And let's say 25, 30 people on there. And a lot of them were on there because they were rich and they were some sort of power gay and had some sort of connection that somehow earned them a seat at this table. And what that caused was it was very consensus driven. So they needed to have input from everybody. It needed to be a collaborative decision-making process. So when things would break on the campaign trail, and it was a dirty, nasty campaign, and when things would happen, they couldn't react to it quickly. And that was a big, huge criticism for that campaign later on. But small caveat here, I wasn't a part of that. Post-mortem, I didn't see any of that technical research. That is all hearsay. So take it with a grain of salt. If any of you are watching this and you were a part of that No on 8 campaign, you guys did your best and I love you. So don't take it personally. All right, so that's the functions for kitchen cabinet on your campaign. So, one more that I forgot here. They can also act as a surrogate. So we talked earlier about prioritization in your schedule and how you're just not going to be able to make it to every single event that you'll want to be at and where people will expect you to be at. And in that case, you want to send a surrogate. So the kitchen cabinet is a good group of people that you can ask to go in your place. You don't want to burden them. You don't want to be asking these people to take, night after night away from their families and other obligations to go show up at we call it the rubber chicken circus. It's always these fundraisers, same sort of format, same sort of chicken served at every single one of them. So you don't want to be asking these people time away from their family to go do that for you every single night. So just one call out there. Okay, so kitchen cabinet size. I wanted to throw this picture in here just because I think it's really pretty. This is John F. Kennedy swearing in, it's John F. Kennedy's cabinet with him as they're sworn in by the Chief Justice in the White House. So that's January 21st, 1961. It's pretty cool, and you can see Jackie O there with him as well, I believe. Yep. So you're probably not going to need a cabinet quite that big. So let's talk about it. A consideration here is the size of your race. If you're running for city council in New York City, that's a little bit more than running for city council in Yuba City, California, my current town versus my hometown. So if or just like a small, like running on like the water board or a school board seat in a smaller town, you'll have a couple of trusted advisors, maybe 3 or 4 people, and that will suffice. If you're running for something bigger, you might want a bigger pool of people. Second thing to consider here, this is even more important, is your personal working style. If you're accustomed to being like in your job, talking to people all day, every day, you're surrounded by tons of folks, and you have a role that's very collaborative, and you enjoy being around that many people, you're extroverted and you get energy from being around people like that, then you probably want a bigger kitchen cabinet. If you're the opposite, maybe your job is a little bit more independent in nature, you're not surrounded by people all day, every day, and you need that quiet, contemplative time to be able to recharge your batteries and deliver a good product, deliver on your promises and your own work ethic, then you're probably going to want a smaller kitchen cabinet. So my recommendation is anywhere between 4 people and 10 people. 4 is definitely the lowest because you plus those 4 makes 5. So you at least have an odd number of people. So if you guys want to take like a straw poll, you can have an odd number so you can get to a result. If you have 3 people, 3 I just don't really think is enough to like bounce ideas off of and get a significant diversity of opinion. 10, anything bigger than that, and it's just too unwieldy, and then you start running the risk of not being able to be agile and nimble in your decision making. So I recommend 4 to 10 folks. So who to recruit? Who do you want on this thing? So I have lots of different ideas here for you of people you can choose from. So if you have a professional mentor, even if that person doesn't know much about politics, but they know you really well, this is somebody you'll definitely want to include. A mentor and a mentee relationship is very different than any other, and this person should be very accustomed to giving you critical feedback, and that can be very useful here. Your spouse or your parent, depending on your age and your individual circumstance. In general, a spouse or a parent or parents are the person that's closest to you in your life, and I think that person knows you in a way unlike anybody else, and you'll want them in the kitchen cabinet. We'll talk more about family role in 2 more lessons because you do need to manage that dynamic carefully. But a spouse or a parent will be very critical on the kitchen cabinet. I wouldn't do both though. Then it becomes too family heavy. Your treasurer. So we'll talk more about treasurer, but the big call out here is that every campaign committee that's formed, and the campaign committee is the official legal body, the legal entity that runs your campaign and like owns your campaign in a way. Each one that is created is required to have a treasurer sign off on it. Your treasurer is the one that officially opens the campaign and files for the campaign, files a campaign committee. So you'll need to recruit a treasurer before you do anything else legally founding the campaign committee. And that person should definitely be on the kitchen cabinet, and they should also be the person that's keeping the books, serving as like the treasurer of sorts. So your campaign manager, I'm going to recommend that everybody have a campaign manager. It's a bit unconventional from like a political consultant perspective. So from like my perspective to you, to recommend that you be your own campaign manager. All campaign consultants, political consultants will say, never, ever, 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 ever should you be your own campaign manager. Well, kind of depends on the race that you're running and what you're running for. I'm hoping that people utilize this course for all sorts of races that they're running for, and races that are pretty small and not feasible for you to pay any staff at all. In the case that you don't have a volunteer campaign manager, because getting a volunteer campaign manager would be pretty tough because it's a lot of work, you're likely going to be doing that role as campaign manager yourself. But in the event that you do have a campaign manager, which I recommend that you do, especially if the race is a little bit big, kind of more than just requiring 10 hours per week of your time, then I'm going to recommend getting a campaign manager. So if you do, they 100% for sure need to be part of the kitchen cabinet. Finding fundraising leaders or just your fundraising chair. Fundraising is going to be super critical. We're going to talk a lot about it in future lessons, and you should have one person that's head of fundraising, and they need to be on the kitchen cabinet as well. And volunteer recruitment, just like fundraising, is very, very, very critical, and you'll want them in the kitchen cabinet as well. As you spitball big ideas, they'll be great as an ear to the ground on the like inspiration and motivation that you, the candidate, are bringing to the most influential and most motivated, most ardent supporters of your campaign. And that's a good thing to keep your pulse on. So, kitchen cabinet members, what is in it for them? Because these are going to be volunteer people. You're going to be asking them for a considerable chunk of their time. So why the heck would they do this? What the heck is in it for them? So the big thing is you need to make them believe in you. If you want to deliver anything for these folks, they really, really, really need to believe in you. So that's step number one. That's why I called it out here first. And there's lots of ways to make people believe in you. And really it's just exhibiting and making good on like great human qualities, great personal traits. So keeping your word with people, running a transparent campaign, being nice, being organized, showing up, listening to them, valuing their opinions. All of these sorts of things is going to make them believe in you. It's going to make them trust you. And then these other things that follow will be much more effective. The other things that's like in it for them. But step number one, they need to believe in you and they need to trust you. They really want they need to want to see you succeed. So second, there could be some sort of future payoff for them. And I know that just sounds like dirty politics talk, but it kind of is, and there's kind of no way around it. So maybe it's maybe somebody that what's an example here that doesn't sound too crazy? Maybe it is someone that knows that, or someone that's very, very, very committed to preserving some environmental, like wetlands that are being debated about as being rezoned into industrial land. And they know that you are a huge supporter of preserving all environmental land that is around your community. Then they really have some skin in the game there. That's like a future payoff for them. If you get elected, then they're going to know that you're going to believe in this, and that you're going to like act on policy that they believe in. Another example could be that they are really, really strong believers that small businesses are being crushed by a bunch of taxes that have been enacted, and you talk about restructuring those taxes so that small businesses aren't experiencing them. So they really believe in that, and they could potentially have like a very real future payoff in believing in your campaign and helping you to win. So in that, it would be a future payoff could be like I was just describing. So enacting changes that they believe in, something like public policy that they want to see. Another one could just be like a very tangible deliverable, like a job. Like, hey, if I get elected, I'm going to need a district director. I'm going to need a policy advisor. I'm going to need someone to like do my scheduling and be my personal assistant in the Capitol. Those are jobs that are typically delivered to kitchen cabinet type members on campaigns. So it's very common for people to work real hard on campaigns because they know that they have that in store at the end. So another big piece here is I just wanted to put like inspire. So they could be simply doing this because they are inspired to make the world a better place, and they think that in helping you win your election is going to do that. Plain and simple. So maybe you are the first transgender candidate to ever run for office in your entire state. Maybe your city has never had a black city council member. Maybe you're the first gay person to be elected president of the United States, and you're watching this video right now and you're about to run for president. Okay, well, that's probably not going to happen, and I'm going to be the first gay president of the United States, so back off. But you could just be doing something that's very, very, very inspiring, and that's how you get people in the fold. So if you're doing something to you that seems like, oh yeah, I think this thing is pretty cool, but am I an inspiration to people? I don't really know. No, you are an inspiration to people. Don't forget that. You are an inspirational person. People are going to look to you and they are going to want to be like you, and you're going to bring so much hope to people's lives. So don't forget that. And anytime that you can communicate that and own that and be that inspirational figure, then do it. Don't be shy about it. Do it. So how to engage with your kitchen cabinet. This is a really important piece of this, and this is very just like corporate 101 sort of stuff, guys. So I'll go through it pretty quickly because it's pretty tactical and boring, but it's very important. So I would recommend like informal one-on-ones with these people. So anytime that you have, that you can jump on the phone with them and reach out to them individually, keep that pulse, keep like something casual going with each one of these people. Second is like regular group meetings, and this is very important. So this needs to be run like a very formal, very important meeting, as if like all of your lawyers, all of your bankers, your priest, your mother, like as if everybody is there and they're expecting something that's extremely buttoned up and formal. Please, please, please have this and do it once a week. Once a week later on. But the big idea here is that it should be very formal. So if you can find a professional space to do this in, something that's nice, if you have an office or perhaps you have a very beautiful home with like a nice big dining room that you could use, as long as there's not kids running around, not a chaotic environment, no coloring books and macaroni smeared on the table or anything. If one of your kitchen cabinet members has a very nice office space or a private club with a meeting space, use something nice. That's the idea there. Make sure that you have remote attendance options available. There's super cheap options online for free conference call hosting, or super cheap conference call hosting. I think all the free ones have maybe gone by the wayside, or they're just no good no more. But I'll look into that a little bit for you guys, and I'll put some stuff in the notes for you. But there's things like Google Hangouts and like GoToMeeting and stuff like that. But the idea is that, like, look, it's 2017, maybe it's 2018 by the time you're watching this. People can't make it in person to every single meeting all the time, and it's really old school to expect people to do that. So you should be able to dial into the meeting and listen, and there should also be like a WebEx or a live meeting. There's different words for it, but basically so they can see your computer screen, they can see some materials that are being presented. Please, please, please do that. Also, like as a campaign heats up, you're going to want to ratchet up the cadence of these meetings. So I'd recommend, like if it's totally different on each race, but just have a feel for it. Start out with like one every other week in the very early part of the campaign. If you find that you're not really able to cover everything that you want, then start ratcheting it up. But if you're 3 months out from the election, you should definitely be meeting once a week. And you could be meeting even more than that earlier on, or just more frequently. So also, like, designate a secretary for these meetings, someone that can take notes, and then also be very, very, very certain to call out follow-ups. So where people have committed to, oh yeah, I'll take care of that. Oh yeah, Charles, he said that he was going to do this thing or that thing, or like, did you talk to Mary about that yet? Make sure you track all of those things. And then in the next meeting, the secretary goes down that list of follow-ups that were supposed to happen, and then they mark off yes or no, did that happen? You could play that role, but it's kind of bogs you down with activity when you should just be like absorbing and communicating during this meeting. So the big themes here is that it should be very professional, everything should be documented, and you want to focus on accountability. So if someone says they're going to do something, you're going to pester them about it to make sure that they have done it. And just a word here, guys, since we're talking about speaking with advisors and communication in general and written materials. In general, if you're talking about anything that's pretty sensitive, don't put it in writing, and don't email it around, and don't text message it. I would like just keep most of this communication with these trusted advisors over the phone. Call them every single day if you need to, but unless it's like text messages or emails about, can we get this meeting moved to this time, or is so-and-so going to go to this thing? Anything about policy position development, campaign messaging, anything that feels slightly gossipy about anybody, don't put it in writing. And when you're out talking about things, be very aware of your surroundings. I know this sounds like paranoid, but there's a lot of horror stories out there. And I'm not just talking about the like Hillary Clinton campaign and all the email BS that went around with all of that. Much more on local races and people just overhearing things that they're not supposed to be overhearing, communicating it back. So honestly, guys, like don't talk about any policy development, message development, any of that kind of stuff. And for you, so I would tell all the kitchen cabinet that. And for you in particular, don't put anything in text messages that you wouldn't want posted everywhere. I'm talking even when you're talking to your husband and wife, your kids, your best friend back home that you say the most crazy, inappropriate jokes with. Like when you're running for office, don't put any of that stuff in writing at all. You want to make some crazy, crazy jokes with your best friend, wait until you guys are sitting in a room alone, every cell phone is turned off, and then it might be time to do it. You have to be super, super careful about what you're putting in writing. Always act as if that thing that's being written is out there for the whole world to see, with everyone. Okay. Just wanted to call that out. Very, very, very important. So sorry for the big dramatic speech. And that's it for Chapter 4, Lesson 1 on the kitchen cabinet. I hope this is helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, as always, put them in the comments over here, or feel free to shoot me a Snapchat or something, and we'll try and get it answered for you. And that's it. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Thanks, guys.